What if someone you care deeply for disappeared and then came back, but they weren't really themselves anymore? Would you reject them immediately or hold on to the version of them that you knew? This is Yoshiki's nightmare in The Summer Hikaru Died. It's terrifying, heartbreaking, and I can't look away.
So I'm only covering season 1 today. No spoilers past that. Alright, let's dive in. The opening scene sets the tone perfectly. Hikaru has been acting strange lately, and Yoshiki grows suspicious. So he finally blurts out a weird question. You're not Hikaru, are you?
Shockingly, Hikaru is then revealed to be some kind of freaky monster. At this point, we, the viewers, are just as lost and confused as Yoshiki. We don't know what Hikaru is either, so we can share his confusion and his horror.
After Hikaru's confession, Yoshiki says nothing. He just cries, gasps, and struggles to breathe. Yet, after a moment, he decides, even if Hikaru is a fake, he'd rather be with a fake than alone.
Loneliness is a key theme in this story. This choice shows a lot about Yoshiki. He hates his weak side, but part of him clings to it to justify staying with Hikaru. It's heartbreaking, but addicting.
There's something he can't admit yet, even to himself, about why he needs Hikaru so badly. This moment instantly makes you feel the same confusion and fear as Yoshiki.
What the heck is Hikaru now? And why does Yoshiki want to stay by his side? One of the creepiest things about this anime is its body horror.
Body horror works because it takes something so familiar, our own bodies, and twists it into something unnatural, causing a kind of instinctual unease. Famous mangaka like Junji Ito are masters at this, and I think the mangaka Mokumokuren is too.
A lot of horror anime has scary plots and ideas, but none of the visuals usually scare me, personally.
However, the direction of this anime, with its fast cuts, glitch-like editing, the insect imagery, uncanny transformations, and these real-life pictures and video added in, all are used to make the horror feel real. For example, there are lots of these shots of insects molting and transforming.
I think it mirrors Hikaru's body, something that's changing, shifting, and, well, becoming something else completely. I also notice shots of spiders often, and also in the manga,
creating this intense enemy-in-waiting atmosphere. It's like a visual reminder that Hikaru could turn on Yoshiki at any moment. The spider webs are beautiful, but they're also kind of haunting.
And then, of course, the infamous raw marinated chicken scene. What the hell is this? Yoshiki describes what Hikaru's insides feel like. And while this is already a creepy scene, and obviously kind of sad, the image, real image of raw chicken just makes it a bit too real.
It seems like a weird choice, but by showing real pictures, suddenly the horror isn't abstract anymore. It becomes this real, gross thing, and you can almost feel its cold, slimy texture.
I really love that the mangaka, Mokumokuren, takes every opportunity to show us that Hikaru is the farthest thing from human. In a lot of series, being a monster is kind of cute and quirky, but Hikaru is constantly shown as dangerous.
Hikaru is charming, more outgoing than Yoshiki, and yet he still carries a sweet, kinda naive side, and that contrast makes him so much more unsettling.
Also, I quickly want to say, I love Hikaru and Yoshiki, so when I call Hikaru creepy or say that Yoshiki is weak and in denial, I'm not saying this necessarily negatively. I think those negative traits are what make these characters interesting. Their flaws do not weaken the story, they deepen it. Speaking of reality, this anime is based on a real village in Japan, a place that I actually visited.
I even have another video showing how the anime mirrors real life. The mountains, the shrine, and even the bus stop signs. They are exactly the same, which you can check out after if you're curious.
Anyways, this attention to detail grounds the horror in reality. It's like you're not watching a fantasy world, but a place that really exists.
When I was there, I stood in the same spots that Yoshiki and Hikaru stood in the anime, and it hit me how isolating this environment is. It's insanely beautiful, peaceful even, but also so quiet. It's the kind of place that if something strange happened, no one would know.
The anime team did an amazing job blending the manga and the real world to create an interesting atmosphere that is both eerie and special.
And that's what makes these weird spirits and Hikaru so much more terrifying, because they feel like they're invading a world that is real. But this series isn't just about a spooky fictional town. It's about grief. Yoshiki is living through the nightmare of losing someone he loves, only to be confronted with a version of them that isn't quite the same. This kind of grief doesn't just happen when someone passes away. It's a confusing kind of grief, where someone is still physically here, but they have changed so much that they feel like a stranger. And while the story feels alien and almost impossible, it's not completely disconnected from reality.
Have you ever had a family member or friend change so much that you barely recognize them? You still miss the old them, and even if they're standing right in front of you, it still feels like they're gone.
That disconnect is lonely and strange, and I've personally seen it with my own family. They're still there, but they're not the same. You still love them, but it's hard to sort through your emotions. This is the kind of confusion Yoshiki is facing, and I appreciate that the story shows him really struggling with it, because it is complicated. In Yoshiki's case, there's also an extra layer of mystery, because Hikaru literally isn't human anymore.
One more real-life comparison. While watching this anime, I couldn't stop thinking about the rise of AI. What's stopping someone from creating a digital copy of a loved one who's passed away? Basically recreating Yoshiki's problem.
This idea has been explored in series like Chobits, and now people are actually doing this in real life. That means this impossible situation isn't as crazy as it seems. I can honestly understand the temptation to do this, while also knowing it wouldn't be healthy. This human desire to not let go makes Yoshiki's struggle feel even more real. But there's another layer to Yoshiki. His fear of Hikaru being a monster mirrors his fear of himself. He sees his own desires as monstrous too.
And that's what makes their relationship so tragically beautiful. He isn't just afraid of what Hikaru's become, but what that says about him and the fact that he still wants Hikaru.
This inner struggle, questioning his feelings, wrestling with shame, worrying about how society sees him, also reveals Yoshiki's struggle with his queer identity.
In Japan, there's this little popular phrase that is so popular, I'm sure you could finish the end of my sentence. Are you ready? The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. It reflects a group-focused mentality where standing out too much or being too different is discouraged. And you do really feel it living here.
Yoshiki doesn't feel normal and desperately wants to fit in. You can see this through his fear and his hesitation. He's not just afraid of Hikaru, but what other people will think of him, especially in a small town where everyone knows each other and rumors spread fast. That fear is amplified even more.
Media has a long and complicated history with LGBTQ representation.
In Japan, LGBTQ characters and themes have been around for decades, but same-sex marriage still isn't legal.
Now, I'm not Japanese, but I've lived here for 6 years, and this contradiction between relatively positive LGBTQ representation on the screen while no legal recognition is something I still find very confusing.
Take Sailor Moon. Sailor Uranus and Neptune are clearly a couple, but in the English dub from the 90s, they were rewritten as cousins. It just goes to show that every country handles LGBTQ issues differently and on its own timeline. And The Summer Hikaru Died offers a distinctly Japanese perspective on that tension.
In the story, this tension drives everything. Yoshiki's struggle to accept Hikaru mirrors his struggle to accept his own feelings.
Loving Hikaru feels monstrous and challenges not just society's expectations, but his own sense of self. That shame, the belief that your desires are monstrous, is what haunts Yoshiki the most. Because in this story, the monster isn't just Hikaru, it's also the part of Yoshiki that wants him. The part that can't let go. And that's why the horror hits so hard. Hikaru's grotesque transformations and uncanny moments reflect Yoshiki's fear that what he wants is wrong.
The infamous raw chicken scene is especially effective because it makes that fear tangible. Usually you would recoil from the cold, slimy texture of raw chicken, but Yoshiki can't stop moving closer.
So yes, this series is about grief, monsters, and body horror, but it's also about a boy who's terrified of his own heart.
And that's what makes it not just scary, but painfully, beautifully real. For Yoshiki, it's when you love someone that society might not agree with, and when loving them makes you feel like a monster too. Which is why I cannot wait for season 2. Season 1 left with so many questions and unresolved drama, and season 2 looks like it's going to push things even further.
The finale set up so much. Yoshiki finally started to acknowledge his feelings, instead of running away from them. He still struggles with self-hatred and anxiety, but you can see some real progress. Hikaru made a stand, distancing himself from the original Hikaru that Yoshiki knew, carving out more of his own identity. And I can't wait to learn more about the mysteries surrounding him and the village.
And even if it's unlikely in a horror story, I am rooting for their happiness. If you've watched this far, you are probably a fan of The Summer Hikaru Died, and maybe you want some more anime with a similar vibe. I have watched anime my entire life, so if you want more stories like The Summer Hikaru Died, I got you.
For horror, I recommend Parasite for more intense body horror, or When the Cicadas Cry, and Summertime Render for creepy small-town mysteries that slowly unravel into chaos. For BL series, check out Banana Fish and Yuri on Ice. Banana Fish is a dark thriller about gangs, trauma, and survival, focusing on the relationship between Ash and Eiji. This is a masterpiece. Yuri on Ice dives deep into anxiety, self-expression, and love through figure skating.
And yes, Mappa, we're still waiting for our season 2.
Oh, and a bonus. If you loved Yoshiki and Hikaru's complex relationship, you'll see traces of it in Neon Genesis Evangelion, especially in Shinji and Kaoru's dynamic. Yoshiki and Hikaru's relationship is way more developed, but if you know Eva, you probably know what I mean.
I am obsessed with Ava, so I have to recommend it anytime I can. It is a psychological dork? It is a dark psychological horror mecha series with a deep look into characters' inner conflicts, exploring how trauma, fear, and human connection shaped them.
Anyways, you don't see too much of these two together until the end of the series and the movies, but Shinji's anxious, lonely attitude and Kaoru's carefree yet mysterious aura really remind me of Yoshiki and Hikaru. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks this.
I often like to do deep dives on Japanese terms that show up in anime, but this is the first time I've done a reflection style review like this. So your comments would mean a lot. Do you like this kind of video? Did you agree with my takes, or did you see the story completely differently? And if you want to see the real Summer Hikaru Died village in Japan, check out this video next. Or maybe this one. See you there!